Hello and welcome. My name is Lance, and the name of the show is Painting the Cape. We're going to be painting Cape Cod, all the iconic scenes of the Cape. So grab your paints and come along and paint along with me. Hello and welcome to Painting the Cape. My name is Lance, and we're going to paint some iconic scenes of Cape Cod from Woods Hole to P-Town. Come along and paint along with me. I start the painting by establishing the horizon line. If I'm painting a scene and I'm looking down on it, the horizon has to be high. And if I'm looking up at a scene, the horizon has to be low. The first thing I do is paint in the sky, and I usually do that in 3 different colors, using, if it's a warm sky, I'll use ochres and white, and a little bit of blue. And I establish 3 sections. After I've got the 3 sections painted, then I take my rag or my tissue and just blend them together. The next thing is we're going to go on to painting the subject. Today we're doing Nobska Lighthouse. And actually, the word Nobska means place of rocks. So I'm using burnt sienna to draw with. It's a transparent color, and it's very easy to wipe off if I change my mind on a particular passage, and just keep drawing it until I get what I like. Now, after I have the drawing basically laid out, I start laying in the different colors. Here I am kind of confirming the colors of the sky. I've established that the light is going to be coming to the right side of the painting and getting darker as it travels across the sky. Since the lighthouse is going to be lit up, I want to have that a relatively dull and darker sky there, so the lighthouse itself will show off better. So you can see that I've got 3 basic tones on the canvas. Actually, I'm using a board. I'm using just a very thin piece of Luan. It's a kind of a plywood. And then I take my tissue or my rag, and I kind of sew these different sections together to kind of blend them together and finish up the sky that way. I usually go from the furthest away, the distant parts of the painting, and then work forward, going from the duller tones to the brighter tones as I come forward. I'm establishing now the distant land possibly could be Martha's Vineyard. And then I go to the sea, the ocean, and I'm putting in, I always work from dark to light. So I'm painting in the deepest and darkest spots of the ocean. I used Prussian blue and a little bit of green in there. Now the foreground, I'm going to have some rocks. So the eye is pulled. I want everything to pull towards the lighthouse. And then I add a little cooler or a little bit lighter tone to the water. I'm just adding white to the mixture of Prussian blue and a little bit of yellow ochre. Now on the other side of the road is a pond, and I'm getting that in. That's a little bit greener than the ocean. So if I have to add a little yellow to it to give it that color. At first, I'm just doing the block in, just basic color, something relatively close to it. And then I'll overlay other tones on top to give it more depth. And I'm always trying to paint in the direction of the form. If it's flat or if it's a hill, I just kind of have my brush. I'm constantly drawing. We're going to put a little man sitting on a rock here, looking into the scene. We can have a special episode on how to do figures relatively quick. When I'm using my brush, I push my brush with my whole arm. I don't use my fingers like you would a pencil. I'm always asking myself that a particular color is going from dark to light, warm to cool, strong to weak, and figure out which direction it's going in and apply the paint that way. Always aware of which direction the light is coming from. So in this case, with the sand, I'm going from dark to lighter and cooler to warmer. And there's some bushes close to the road. And I'm doing the same thing there. I ask myself, are they getting darker to lighter, warmer to cooler, stronger in color to weaker in color? In general, as colors go back, they get weaker. Now I'm putting in the ground and the area in the rocks close to the lighthouse. It doesn't have to be exactly like you're seeing it. Uh, if to improve the scene, the design of the scene, you can move things around. Now I'm getting the shadow of the rocks and the land by the lighthouse. And establishing the dark side, the shadow side of the form. Now where the water comes in, there's a little area where it's grayer, where the water washes up onto the sand and then recedes back. You can take a rag, or in this case I'm using just a tissue, but if your canvas or whatever you're painting on is too rough, has too much of a tooth, then you can use a rag so you don't get all these parts of tissue on there. And then I go back and establish where the lighthouse is. And also the Coast Guard station. Now the lighthouse and the Coast Guard station, that's the main subject of the painting. So you want everything kind of focusing that direction, pointing in that direction. Now I'm going to establish where the road is that comes down and up over Nobska. Put the little top on there where the light comes out of. I usually look at a scene before I start to paint and figure out a color scheme, depending on what I want to have in the painting. Sometimes I'll change the lighting if I want it to be later on in the afternoon or earlier in the morning. And if there is a telephone pole or something else that's in the way of the design, I just take that out. And then I'm doing a reflection of the lighthouse in the water below. So when I'm out observing the landscape, I'm trying to figure out which direction the light is coming from, what is it in the scene that interests me, and so I want to make the design so I'm having the viewer, it leads the eye to what I want them to see. In this case, it would be the lighthouse. Now I'm going to add little light from the sky bouncing on the water, and that helps pull the eye back into the scene. I'm using a palette knife, and we'll go over different techniques of using each one of these tools, palette knives or brushes or rags. It was a little bit of an overcast day, and I wanted to stress where the light is. And the light is hitting the waves cresting. What's nice about having a phone, you can take a picture of the surf and it stops the action. So you can see what it's doing and then just take it from there. Now I'm taking my knife and just spreading out the foam after the wave to give that effect. A palette knife is a great tool. Now right where the light is hitting the sand and the water, I make it a little bit lighter there so you can see that the light is really hitting there. And the bushes right next to the pond. Now, doing the light on the figure, I use warmer tones for where the light is hitting, because as the light goes further away, it gets cooler, and closer to you, the light is warmer. We'll have different segments on how to draw with a brush and how to draw with a rag and how to draw with a palette knife. Now I'm establishing the shadow areas on the rocks that the man is casting. you want the picture to have at least 3 sections, just like those cards that you used to see that you open them up and it becomes three-dimensional, and there's a foreground, a midground, and a distant ground. Then on every form, there is a light side and a dark side. There's also on the light side, it's being affected by the sun or the light, and on the back side of it, it's being affected by the sky, which is more of a blue light. Now I go back and I kind of sew the different sections together by just blending the transition. And that's about all the time we have today. Thanks for joining me. I'll put a list of the different colors I use. And so next time, have your paints ready and we'll paint the scene together. I'm just adding a little bit of blue light on the back side of the subjects in front. All right, I think that's just about it. I always see a couple little things I want to kind of keep touching up. And there we have it, Nobska. All right, thank you. And I'll see you next time on Painting the Cape.